Understated presents LA Underground with Roukin.
Girl, I'll house you. Say what?
LA Underground.
Now give me something to dance to.
Understated LA.
This is only the beginning.
Clever the way everything blends together.
And my sound's laid down by the underground.
LA Underground avec Roukin.
You're listening to the Understated Recordings podcast, LA Underground.
Hello, and welcome to the 22nd episode of Understated Presents LA Underground with me, your host for the next hour, Roukin. We have an incredible show this week, and we'll obviously be beginning the show kicking off with some unreleased music from the label. And this week we're going to be featuring some music off the upcoming compilation, which is just full of absolute beauties. Micah is one of the co-founders of Understated Recordings and the Understated brand, and his story is really interesting. We had a great interview, so I'm really looking forward to playing that for you shortly. Let's get right into it, and the first track off the compilation that we're featuring is from a really good friend of mine. This track is from Maysa, it's called Gypsy, and it's featuring Jasveen. In the background, you're listening to another track from the compilation from Understated. It's called Antimatter from Stew. Up next is a track from an EP that just came out this weekend. It's from a future guest on the show, Craig Williams, who will be with us in a couple of weeks' time. He's collaborated with Kim An on this track, and this is called Daylight.
Groove with me in the night, jack your body close to mine.
Great track there by Craig and Kim, and I can't wait for you to hear the rest of this compilation. It really is some of the best music in one compilation I've heard for a very long time. And now it's the time of the show where we bring on our special guest, and this is the interview between me and Micah Smith. So with me right now is a very important man in the Understated family. Micah Smith is with us today, and he is one of the co-founders and the strategic director of Understated. Initially, obviously, the Understated in terms of the parties, and now, of course, the record label as well. He is an LA native and a producer and a DJ and a man with a whole lot of experience in the LA underground, and therefore, obviously, the perfect driver of the Understated boss. And I'm really excited to have finally cornered him and got him on the show to have a chat and dig a little deeper into what Understated is all about. Please welcome Micah Smith.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so good to have you. So you grew up in West LA, and presumably when you were a kid, you were thinking about bringing something to the table in terms of dance music in Los Angeles. What was the problem you were trying to solve, or what was the extra ingredient you were going to bring into the soup?
Yeah, so I would say, I kind of came up in dance music with EDC and Monster Massive and Hard and those bigger events. And I kind of saw them transforming over the years as I was getting more and more into them. And I was noticing that, just dance music culture as a whole here was becoming very focused on the spectacle. And it was all about, who could have the biggest, baddest drops, who could have the biggest stage production, the most fireworks. And so, what I wanted to bring to the table was kind of, I guess, like reactionary towards that. And I wanted to, bring it back to kind of the way it was in earlier incarnations, at least the way that I had, had heard that things used to be. And just wanted to make it, make it a little bit more about the community and the experience, and the people coming together to just, celebrate life and connect with each other. And, made it, kind of wanted to make it a little bit more about, just, a little bit more simple and community focused, really.
And then, and obviously that happened. I mean, if anyone who's been to an Understated party, that perfectly describes the vibe, right? Yeah. So how did that evolve then into wanting to start a label and then bringing artists into that fold?
So I, I've always been a producer, always been really interested in that and interested in working with other producers. But I never really had like a platform to release my music on. I was making tunes and, sending them out, and they weren't getting any love from the labels that I wanted to release with. So kind of being involved with a label, it always was kind of something that was in the back of my mind. I went to college with Andrew Condi, and he's got a great deal of experience managing and working with labels. He's, pretty much worked every job in the label and label adjacent industries. So it was just a very natural progression. All the people that we were working with were all making these great tunes and having similar problems of not having anywhere to release them. And Andrew had the know-how to do it, and throwing parties had kind of, given us a little bit of street credit within our community of producers that we were working with. And, we saw a great opportunity to kind of tie it all together. And yeah, so our first one was Von Gold, and, he was complaining about not getting any love on what he was doing. And we were just like, hey, let's try to do this and just see where it goes.
Where it's come so fast is such an achievement. And so let's go back a little bit. So you talk about the roots of the scene, right? And yeah. the vibe that was before the EDM explosion.
Yeah.
How do you know about it?
So I studied music history in college, and I took history of electronic dance music as like one of my prereqs.
God, if that had been available to me when I was at college, that's all I would have done.
Yeah. So, I learned a little bit about Chicago and Detroit dance music culture. And, learned about like, the evolution of like raving in the UK, and acid house and all that. And, and then that kind of got me diving a little further. And I ended up writing my senior thesis paper about the commercialization of dance music and how it led to, an abandonment of its core values. And
did that get published?
What's up?
Did that get published?
I have not published it anywhere else. So I'd like to take some time to like fix it up a little bit and, hash out some of the ideas that were not really fully developed because I hadn't truly lived the experience yet. But definitely that's something that's a goal of mine in the next couple of years.
I would love to read that.
Yeah, I can shoot you over a copy of that for sure.
Yeah. I think other people would find that really interesting. I think it'd be like it could be quite an important book right now.
Yeah. Have you read Energy Flash?
No.
Okay, that book was really inspiring to me.
Tell me a little bit about
that too, you could borrow as well.
Tell me a bit about that book.
It's just like it's basically like an overview of kind of all the different movements that have happened within dance music. Starting with like disco demolition derby and like kind of the factors that like led to what we call house music. And they talk about, it gives you like a little, each chapter is like about one scene at one place and time, at one place and one time. And it just kind of goes through it. And I just, I realized through reading that book that there was just a lot more to electronic music than what I had been exposed to.
That's really interesting. It just made me think, what do you think the biggest driving factors are of where the dance music scene is? Is it socioeconomics? Is it political? Is it other music trends that it's reacting against? What do you think makes the scene what it is at any given time?
I would definitely say it's a combination of those factors. I think now we're like fully into the digital and social media era. So I think everything is kind of connected to the rest of the world and the rest of history in a way that it never has been. So I think there's a lot of those issues, like socioeconomic issues were a big part of, kind of, especially in the early days. The people that really started house music were people that were not being led into, a lot of the more mainstream venues. It was a lot of like, in Chicago, it was a lot of like, a lot of the gay community and the Black community. And there was a lot of prejudice going on around there. And so it kind of started that. It's always kind of been this like, kind of like a safe haven for, people to just kind of, practice the values of like inclusivity and togetherness. And
that's what you brought into the Understated ethos, right?
Yeah. And I think, kind of what we formed as a reaction towards is like the increasing influence of like corporate money in dance music. And it's, we noticed that it was kind of starting to just become this big money grab. And that's what was driving the trends in events and records. And I would, personally, I think leading to like a lessening of the music.
So we're coming up for 3 years.
Yeah, exciting.
Since the Understated family was born.
Yeah.
And we're having a big celebration, aren't we, on the 31st of this month?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we all are. I'm looking forward to it as well. And we just announced the lineup, and of course I'm on it. And but there's, where do you start? Give us, just bang out a few names that are on this list, Micah. Let everybody know.
All right, so really excited about having Lisbona Sisters on this lineup. I've been wanting to book them for a really long time. Never really quite had like the right opportunity, and then, now it's kind of a good time. Wyatt Marshall's been great. He's making some moves. He's really getting out there. Yeah, sure. Kurt Reynolds has been like a friend of ours since before Understated was even a thing. So we've always wanted to book him. His name has come up for pretty much every party that we've ever done, and decided it was now time. So we got those are like the main room. And then, we got Tori coming down from San Francisco. Me and her go way back. We used to blog together for 6 a.m. group. We got, so many people that I'm really looking forward to work out. All the label artists, we got like Tommy, we got you playing on there, Manolo and 28.
Yeah.
Just a lot of great talent around the board. And, we have it separated out into 3 rooms, and each of the rooms kind of has a different purpose.
Yeah,
so
because one of the signatures of an understated party is that, and we talked about this with Monsieur Frazier, because the visual and the whole immersive experience is not working separately, but totally in tandem with the sonic, right? So, what will we come to expect from you on that on the 31st?
I would say definitely like the kind of central philosophy of our brand is subtlety. Using less to achieve more. And that's where the name of our brand comes from as well, which is creation. Zach actually came up with the name, it was brilliant, and it's really very fitting for what we do. So I think production wise, it's like we want just like cool, simple, and to the point. We don't want people to get too distracted by what they're seeing visually, but we want to make it something that you look at and it feels good.
That's really exciting. I can't wait. I think it's going to be such a hot night.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And we have a new guy now that's been doing our new-ish. He's been working with us in various contexts for the past year, but we're bringing him a little bit more into the fold now. Romario, really talented guy who does visuals. He works with big acts like guys like Zoo and kind of some of those bigger productions, but he wants to give back to the underground community, and he reached out to us, wanted to get a little bit involved. So he's been grinding away, like really helping us out and kind of helping us reimagine like what our aesthetic even is.
That's great, isn't it? I mean, that's such a big part of it. Bot was saying this as well, that giving back to the community once you've kind of got your foothold, it is what keeps the whole scene alive and what keeps the whole thing moving. It's so important, isn't it? And so refreshing when you hear that that's happening. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's really great that it's great to see, kind of people putting their egos aside and, working, just, doing what's best for what's best for the community, what's best for the brand, what's best for the event. And yeah, that's what we're trying to get back to.
So you said you used to blog for 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know what I want to know a little bit about that, but also about the other kind of jobs that you've had over the years, because I'm sure it's all fed into who you are and what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah, it has definitely everything that I've done, together has collectively driven me towards this.
What was your first ever job?
First ever job, not in music?
Whatever, anything.
The first job, I was working at Perry's Bike Rentals in Santa Monica Beach.
There it is.
Yeah, summer after 10th grade.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always kind of worked a little bit of things here and there. I've never had a super traditional 9-to-5 job. The closest thing that I had to that was, you said you haven't either?
No, I said lucky you.
Oh, yeah. It comes with its pitfalls, and, you make some sacrifices, but, it's kind of forced me to be in some kind of a work mode 24/7. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword. The closest thing I had to a traditional job, I was working for an app called Joyride, writing up it's a game show app. So I was writing music quizzes, and that was really great. But I eventually wasn't crazy about working from home, and I was wanting to do something a little bit more that was tying into what's going on with Understated, and then the opportunity to get involved with EJAGS at the venue came about. And so I quit my job, moved home for a little bit to save a little bit of money while I got things off the ground with him. And now I'm just, kind of building with him and tying that back into Understated and trying to, kind of marry the different things that I'm working on so that everybody can benefit from it.
That's great. Now, we haven't talked about Burning Man.
Yeah, Burning Man's been a big force shaping where I'm at right now.
So how did that come into your life?
It was something, I've been going to festivals for a few years. So I always had heard about Burning Man. It was always this, I had this idea like, oh, sometime I'm going to go. We started throwing parties at our venue, and the venue is really kind of like an outgrowth of Nuts Camp. Everybody that works there is part of the camp, and it kind of serves to be like a home for that community. It serves to be a home for the community, like off the playa. So I was hearing about it for a while, and we started throwing our parties there and getting in with that crew, and one thing led to another, and I was asking Ejags if I could join the camp for a while, and he's like, we don't really like bring new people in, and they're definitely like kind of was like resisting it for a little while, and then as we started working together more and more, he kind of saw what I was about, and one day he just showed up at a party. He's like, "Here, I got you tickets. Like, you're coming with me to the burn." Like, and kind of the rest was history. And I felt, and that community has been really, really been there for me in so many ways that go beyond just the music stuff. Just on a personal level, it really feels like my family. So I've chosen to get a little bit more involved every year, and now I'm at a point where I can't really like imagine my life without Burning Man.
The interesting thing about that is, from my perspective, as someone who's only been in LA for 3 years, that coming to your parties, they don't feel like burner parties, right? And I've been to a lot of them, and a lot of parties that feel like an extension of Burning Man in the months in between. So how do you strike that balance? Like, what are you pulling from Burning Man and what are you leaving behind?
Yeah, so I would say, what we're pulling from is like this, this idea of like that everybody's on the same footing, that like, we're not going to judge people based on like how they look, and we're just going to, come together and really celebrate. And I think like, in a lot of ways, like Understated is kind of like cut from the cloth that is Nuts Camp, because like, the catalyst for that really was like hanging out around Parallel Universe and getting to know these people from the camp. And I didn't realize that at the time, that everybody was all connected, that was working there was all connected through the camp. So, I mean, we've definitely taken a lot of that kind of community vibe and looking out for each other. I think something that we've like left behind is a little bit more of like the crazy fashion and the over the top absurdism. Which is something that I actually really enjoy about Burning Man. I mean, I like wearing crazy things and expressing myself in weird ways. And we don't, that's not unwelcome at our parties. You'll see people dressed like they're about to go to a festival, but you'll also see, industry people just wearing all black. So it's like really that kind of like everybody being on the same footing that we take home from it. And there's definitely some burner parties that are a little bit more focused on the drugs and the partying. And for us, it's all about the music.
And what would you say, if there was one thing that you wish people knew about Understated that they might not already, what is that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that what I would probably say is that, it didn't just happen overnight. Like a lot of people on the outside, they see, they saw what happened. I saw our first party, we had like 400 people, and it just kind of like took off very quickly once that happened. But the wheels have been in motion for this since like 2010. When I first met Frazier and we started working on music together, and the team has been kind of grinding away on their own things that have all led to us being able to do this and paying our dues over the years. So I think a lot of people ask us like how it's happened so quickly, but the real answer is like it didn't happen quickly. It just, we were putting our work in behind the scenes.
Well, since you mentioned it, this might not be allowed, but rumor has it that you and Monsieur Frazier are back in the studio together. Is this true?
That is true.
What's going on? Fill us in.
Yeah, I mean, we've, we used to have a group together called Sunset Groove, and Zach was our manager, and we kind of like went our own separate ways for a little bit because we weren't getting the bookings that we wanted and we weren't getting the label releases that we wanted. I've been kind of like silently like plugging away, just kind of dabbling in some different tunes. And, it's been a long time since I've finished anything and since I've like forced myself to finish anything. And, Frazier's kind of been was a little bit more focused on the DJing for a long time. And, we're putting out a compilation, and everybody in the crew was like, dude, you guys need to put something on the compilation. So we just like, all right, screw it, like let's now's the time to get back into it. So we knocked something out this past weekend. We just finished a couple nights ago, and sounding really, really excited about the way this one sounds.
So it's going to be on the January compilation?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And what's the vibe?
It's a little bit of a mishmash, I would say. There's there's a touch of like bicep and quartet, kind of that really heady, really like deep emotional house. We've got it's got like kind of like a classic garage break sample. It's got some it's got some techno elements in it as well. A little bit of a touch of deep house. Definitely very eclectic and good representation of like what we've been messing with over the years.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and then there's also we also potentially might be releasing a vocal mix as well sometime farther down the line. My friend Sarah and I wrote some lyrics, and we've been trying to figure out what to do with them for a while, and they work with that. So but for this one, it's just it's instrumental. It's just instrumental for this, what we're putting on the comp, and it sounds great. We had a blast making it. It was like Mike and I were working on it at Andrew's place, and me and Mike working on that, and Andrew plugging away on label things, and Zach plugging away on things for the 3-year, and it was really nice getting back to that kind of vibe of just everybody together, like working on their own things. And it was great for me, because I can see them kind of like bobbing their head a little bit or like not reacting to the tunes, and I can adjust. And yeah,
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So can we hear it now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll shoot it over.
Okay, so this is a nice surprise in the middle of our interview, but this is a preview of Micah Smith. This is Lazy River. Well, that was an unexpected treat, and what a great track that is, dude. Congratulations. So, amongst the parties that you currently and in the past have experienced in LA, where would you say, what are the parties where you feel people have been getting it right? What have you been influenced by and inspired?
Been influenced? Definitely been influenced a lot by Incognito. That was my first. That was kind of my first taste of underground culture and seeing what an underground party was. Let's see. Yeah, Incognito. And when I was working for 6 a.m., we were helping them, for some of their with builds for some of their parties. So, I met all those guys. Dialogue as well was like a big inspiration. They were like the first party that I ever went to at EJAG's Parallel Universe. I kind of saw what they could do with that space. Dig Deeper's been very influential as well. Yeah, I would say those are kind of the main undergrounds. 900 Block as well. They started right around the same time that we did, or they started a year before, but their first party that I went to was like either a couple weeks before or a couple weeks after Understated. So we've always kind of like played off each other with them, and they, always kind of seen them as like a sister brand.
What can we expect in the coming months and years from Understated? What are you excited about? Is there anything you can tell us that you're looking forward to?
Definitely looking forward to like doing another West Coast tour. We did our mini tour last year. We kind of planned that at the last minute, and it was kind of one of those Murphy's Law situations where like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Our RV broke down before we left town. We had 2 cars get broken into on the way. Zach's car broke down like on the way to one of the shows, and we had like, it was a whole situation. And the lesson that we learned from that was like, you can't plan a tour in 2 weeks. So we're going back to the drawing board this year, figuring out how to do it a little better so we're not scrambling so hard. Really looking forward to that. Looking forward to, getting more involved. Like we did a pool party 2 summers ago, and then we took last summer off. And so we definitely would like to explore that as well. And then, me and Eric are going to be building out the venue a little bit, expanding it. We've been doing little construction projects every week. So we're just really excited to grow and, start moving into like, also booking some bigger international talent as well. While at the same time, like, really still nurturing the underground community. So we'll probably be seeing, another new separate event series of some sort. Kind of a new concept event, because the Understated OO series it's been really incredible, but there's also, there's other formats that we want to experiment with. Collaborate. So exciting. Yeah. Something, personally that I've always wanted to make happen. It's not necessarily underway at the moment, but it's, kind of a long-term goal is to do a block party in downtown, with the main stage out in the streets, and then, a couple warehouses, each having side stages.
Dynamite.
Yeah, there's a lot. And then also, from my own standpoint, like trying to get back into making more music this year, and like, maybe put out an EP sometime later in the year and keep building. Exciting times. 2020 is the year. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I know you've got lots to do, but I think it's been actually really enlightening to hear about the roots of the brand from the horse's mouth, and I know it's just going to go from strength to strength. So the 31st is the date. Come down and join the party, because what a celebration that's going to be, right? 3 years.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
And coming up immediately on the back of this interview is an absolute banger of a guest mix from Micah. So I'm really excited for you to hear all of that. And for now, thank you, Micah, for coming on, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Peace.
All right, bye.
The guest mix. Understated LA. Understated presents LA Underground with Roukin. You're listening to the Understated Recordings Podcast, LA Underground.
why you don't wanna be alone. Now I should hang up after what you put me through. There's no reason for me to talk to you except that no one else makes me feel the way you do. It's a shame, boy, but my heart is hooked on you. Well, you've been doing me wrong ever since I let you in, yeah. But it's your love that thrills me to no end. I've got a bad, bad habit, baby. And baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. I've got a bad, bad habit, baby. And baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. I've got a bad, bad habit, baby. And baby, it's you.
Roukin. guest mix.
LA Underground.
That was a really sweet guest mix from Micah Smith, and that is all we have time for on this episode of LA Underground. Next up in the next episode will be Craig Williams, and don't forget you can buy tickets to the Understated 3rd birthday over on Restless Nights. There will of course be tickets available on the door if they haven't sold out, so I would suggest getting involved right now. Please go to iTunes and do a little subscription. It really does help in getting the podcast up the ratings. You can follow me at Roukin Official on any of the socials. You can also get any of the Understated news and follow what's going on with the label and the brand at Understated LA. But for now, that's it for episode 22. This is Roukin. You've been listening to Understated Presents LA Underground. See ya!
Understated LA.